Are we recording? Are we live? Oh, thank God. I've interviewed lots of people. I've never done a podcast, so you're all going to have to just bear with me here. All right. Here we go. All right. Welcome, District 6, to a live taping of NCMPR's Can You Make It Pretty podcast. I'm your guest host today, Andrea Rangno, filling in for co-host Matt Radcliffe and Emily Ray. I'm happy to introduce you to our guest, who some of you already know, David Steiman. I'm pronouncing that right, David? Mm-hmm. Yep. All right, David Steiman. David is the director of marketing at Pasadena City College in California, though his background is in filmmaking. We're here to talk to you about moving from that creative maker role into management. Welcome, David.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, David, I think we're going to start today with asking about your background. I've heard it's pretty interesting.
It's like many of you, you're probably a professional journey meandered through several, turns. I started in HVAC. I started cleaning air conditioning because after college, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And there was an opportunity of a family friend and said, come learn the business. And I did it, and I was completely miserable because it's a lot of hard work, and you're on top of roofs all the time, 10, 11 hours a day, visiting really hot parts of the country that need AC. And I decided I needed to do something different. On a whim, I moved out to California because I had visited some friends before, and that was definitely, it felt like the right place. A lot of our goals aligned. And I found a job right away, not knowing anything about the LA landscape or not knowing how big LA was. And so I had a background playing hockey. I thought, let me try and do a fun job and get involved with a hockey organization. And so on one day I said, I'm going to drop off resumes. And I went from Inglewood to Anaheim, back to Long Beach. And at Long Beach, I decided, okay, I'm going to wait until the office leaves, and I'm going to just try and get in front of somebody. And I ended up getting a job with the Long Beach Ice Dogs, which was difficult because you're a third team in a market that didn't care about hockey. And so there's lots of other things you can do. And so I was able to do lots of different roles. Smaller organizations will happily exploit you. So I was the mascot. I was group and season ticket sales. I did some marketing, some Jumbotron programming, and some youth hockey clinics. So I got to do all of this. Unfortunately, the team folded, and I was looking for another occupation. And the owner of the team was in entertainment. He was a producer and writer for the show Taxi and Coach, and he piqued my interest in media and production. And I met a woman who had a very loose connection to film, and that woman is now my wife. She's more than a woman. But she had a relative who was a film producer, and he invited us out to his film set. And I'd never been on a film set, and so I was just in awe of everything that went into the production. Most importantly, the craft service truck, where you could just eat anything you want off that. And so we kind of had a conversation, and he said, well, would you be interested in a position? And so I started in the editing room as a production assistant. And from there, I just met people and networked and went from project to project and film to film, kind of meeting different crew and taking on different roles. So I went from a film like, first one was called Meet the Deedles, which nobody saw. It was like Disney's return to live action. It was Paul Walker's first film. And then did an independent film where I got to learn everything behind the scenes. That was an HBO special with a title that sounds really weird. And then went on to bigger films. And so I got to work with Robert Zemeckis on Castaway and What Lies Beneath, and then eventually hooked up with a director, and that's where I got to see everything from the inception of an idea to the world press junket. And it got to a point where We were on a Jackie Chan film. I was watching Jackie Chan block out a scene. We were in Hong Kong on a boat in the harbor, and I can't. A boat is very confined. It's a small space. You have to be out of the way. So I was on the top deck, just kind of over, just watching over, and I was like, wow, it'd be cool if a bad guy did Jackie Chan style action, because I like if you know anything about Jackie, he just utilizes whatever's around him. He never has a weapon in his fights. It's just he makes use of whatever props are there. And I just thought that would be a fun action style. And in the same time, I was fascinated with this really caveman idea of, wow, if you flip 2 letters around in the word Satan, you get Santa, or vice versa. And so I married the 2 ideas, and I had a cult film that comes out every holiday called Santa's Sleigh. Please don't watch it because you'll think a lot differently about me.
Oh, we're all going to watch it, David. We're definitely watching that.
And I mean, so I got that experience. And so the last writer's strike that happened, we were all unemployed. My wife was working for, or working with a nonprofit in Vietnam. And so I went with her one year because they said, oh, well, David, why don't you shoot this and make a video? Because I was doing some commercials. And I met somebody who worked at Pasadena City College. He was just starting up our Pathways program. And he asked me to come, would I take on and do some video production, a 6-week project. And now that 6-week project is going on 14 years. So I'm really inefficient in everything I do. And that's how I ended up. That's my long meandering story of how I ended up at Pasadena City College.
I love that you call it meandering, because it does feel like you're just going along and you're happening across these really incredible opportunities.
Well, whatever your background is, that skill set will help you wherever you're going. Nothing goes to waste. So, you've all probably had different journeys and you're wondering how whatever I did is applicable to where you want to go, and it all feeds into it, right? And I can draw a line from time at HVAC and working with people who didn't have U.S. citizenship. And, I had to learn how to communicate and then figure out their background and what was important to them and why they valued, education. And I can see that in every facet that I had worked in. And you can see how that helps you and your journey and your background and the way you communicate and tell different people's stories.
So how do you think filmmaking helped you as you transitioned into this role at Pasadena City College?
Well, as a director, you have to have answers for everybody, because time is money and people need direction and action and information to do what they need to do so that they can complete their tasks, so you all can meet your objective and your goal and move on for the day, because you have to figure out, no matter what, how to shoot the content you need in that specific time, because you lose a location, you lose somebody's availability. There's 100 different reasons. And so I had to, and anybody that works in communication, you have people coming at you all day, right? And so you have to have answers, because you're, whether you're overseeing the website or helping out with graphic communication or video or, social media, they all need some sort of answer, and they need to all be connected. And so your job is to help, make those connections so that you're telling a cohesive story. And so I think that all feeds into what I'm doing now. And I also work good in chaos. And I feel like that is not a preferred style for most people. And I know my office does not like working in chaos, but that's kind of where I thrive. And Rochelle will attest. Sometimes it's a little chaotic.
Now, you didn't start as a director. So what are some of the other roles you had at Pasadena?
Okay, so I started as an hourly. I was a college assistant. And that was just doing video. I went to across town in LA. I was invited to participate in it was like a web studio interview, and I looked around and I said, "Wow, we could totally build this at the college." And so I wrote a grant with some of the other folks on campus.
I just want to stop you. You wrote a grant. Well, you're an assistant, and you're like, I want to write a grant.
I didn't take the lead on it. I pitched the idea, and then people who knew how to write grants at the college. So I helped participate in it.
So maybe the lesson there is be really good at making friends at your college.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we wrote a grant and got funding to build a web studio. And so then I started to work with our TVR department, and we did a daily news show. It was called PCC 1. And it was great. We got students involved. They were, at the end, they were writing, directing, and then sharing out on social and putting out all the campus news that they thought was important, all the opportunities, whether it was scholarships or which transfer institutes were going to be on campus that day, or just anything that they thought was important just to share. And I wanted it to be from their perspective. It was campy. It was offbeat. We did some of our students you would not expect came out of their shell and really shined. And all that I did to promote that was have a glass door on the studio. And as students walked by, those that were curious enough to enter the door were hooked. And so they were the ones that were and there was a lot of those students. And that's the part, we have a lot of courageous students in our community colleges. So anyway, we did that. A vice president at the time also had a media background. And so we had connected a lot. And he knows that in production, you have a different, I wouldn't say work ethic, but you're used to long production hours. And you just do whatever needs to get, you put in the time to get the job done. I was being involved, I became involved in a lot of campus initiatives because I had some ideas, and sometimes they were good and sometimes they were off the wall, but at least it was different. And the vice president, our president moved on. The vice president became an interim president, and he was making some changes. And at the time, they made a change in our public relations department, and he asked me if I would be interested in helping co-lead the department. And I had never had any experience in public relations, and with that, different communication, platforms that come with that role. And I took that on for a year.
Public relations. When you say public relations, what exactly do you mean by what were they envisioning you were going to do as a PR?
So public relations is really now what we call strategic communications and marketing in our campus. So it was involved for all of our communication channels. It was just, I think, using an outdated term, which we've still, we've rebranded. And I understand there's PR and there's PIOs, but this was really just internal communication, whether it's advertising, marketing, all the graphics, the social media, video, film, photos for the campus.
Got it.
So we rebranded. I was on a hiring committee that hired my boss eventually, who we needed somebody who actually had some experience. So I got that experience for a year. I became the creative services supervisor. And then a position was flown to be the director of marketing. And that's where I now sit.
All right. That's quite a journey. What do you guys think? Yeah. So you've got this really creative background. How do you think that's helped you in your role as a leader now on your campus? So
anything that I do, I want it to evoke a feeling, right? So whether it's inspiration, whether it's a smirk, humor, something. And if we don't do that, then we're just throwing out word salad, success starts here, start journey now, all that stuff. And so I want to do something different. And so I look at the way I approach things is I look at things and I'm like, wouldn't it be cool if? And so that's what I get to do. I look around at the campus and said, oh man, this would be better if we did this, or wouldn't it be a lot more interesting if this happened? And so I try and look for creative partners to do something like Alianza, stuff that nobody else is doing. Perceptive for sure. We just do things that I think our college, like all of you, think our college is special. Our students are way more special than anywhere else, right? Community college students are way more special. And so I don't want to do things we don't want to be on the back of the bus, right? That's for butt schools. We want to take over the bus. We want to wrap the bus, right? Okay. So we want to do bigger things, more interesting things, more visible things. I don't want to look like other community colleges, all due respect. I want to look different. And so that's the way we approach things, because I want to position our college as the best college.
Yeah. I love that you've got these big ideas and you want to be different, but we all know here that day-to-day managing sort of sometimes those two things don't always align. So do you think that there's anything in your background that's helped you with the day-to-day, the stuff that maybe isn't as sexy? I'm going to say that word.
I'm learning every day how to be a better manager because it's difficult. Like, you're not just doing creative things. You're managing personalities and feelings and, whatever happens in your staff and their challenges. And so some of the times you're just dealing with personalities and feelings, and it's not necessarily about the work you're doing. And that can even mushroom out to beyond your office. And so a lot of it is like, creating a rec and a PO and chasing down purchasing to do stuff, like none of the creative stuff that just drains your energy. So I'm getting better to, like, when we got there, we didn't really have a standard a workflow and how we receive things. And that was really important to our office. And that wasn't necessarily my style, but I had to listen to them to see how they can work better, how they want to receive information and organize their tasks. And so it's like, job workflow, how we get tickets, how we communicate with each other. And so for me, it's always trying to improve. And Jeff, we did this session yesterday, the pre-con. And yeah, I've been in this role now for about 3 years, but I don't think I'm good at it yet. And I want to keep getting better and improving. And so even, with Jeff's session, which is really for beginners, nobody really teaches you how to run an office. You're usually good at what you do, but, there's not a lot of training about, how to manage personalities and folks. And so that's the part that I'm really trying to improve on.
Yeah, I'm with you there. So, I think it's really hard to go from being a creative and a doer into a manager role and sort of letting go of the reins a little bit of that creative side of things. Sometimes former doers and former creatives can just get frustrated and say, I'll just do it myself. How do you avoid that?
So I'm still learning. Well, there's certain things. Like, one, you have to trust the people that you have because they're experts at what they do. And so you have to let them do what they know how to do. And I don't know, I know what I like, but I don't know I'm not a graphic designer. And so they're experts, and they, you might have a vision in your head, but they can often, take it to the next level because they have that skill set and that's what they're thinking about. And the volume that you handle, you don't have the time in order to accomplish what you need to do to take it on yourself. I still am trying to figure out that work-life balance. And so I do put in, I think, like too much because I am trying to take on a lot and I have difficulty saying no. So it's still a work in progress, I guess.
Yeah. I hope all of us are always a work in progress. That's why we're here. I want to get a little audience participation. So raise your hand if you are currently in a creative role. Okay.
Every single one of you really is, though.
Should we actually raise your hand and clap and cheer if you are currently in a creative role so that our listeners can hear? All right. Okay, now I want to know, raise your hand if you have transitioned from a creative role into a director, a management role. And raise your hands and clap. All right, fewer people. What does it mean? We don't know. Okay.
No, but I think that is it's awesome because you're here, right? And I think that's what NCMPR is trying to do. Is really, it's not just for managers and directors of marketing. It's for all the creatives that work, in community college. And it's important because you all play such an important role in all of this. You have to think about our student success, and you're helping the students get to where they want to go. Because the one thing that everybody shares at community college is they're all coming there to improve their lives. And you get to play a part of that. And that's powerful stuff. And so you all play a role in that.
All right. Real question. Do you ever miss it?
Do I ever miss film?
Do you ever miss being a creative instead of...
I still am a creative.
All right. Good answer. Great answer.
Man, I create havoc all the time. Like my wife will tell you I'm still a director at home. No, but I'm just kidding. No, I still do stuff. Like, so this Monday I finished and I'm on a film festival where I'm a judge. And so I watched 38 horror films.
Wow.
And that, you try and chip them off as you can, but that last weekend, stuff gets in the way. So all of a sudden it's like, oh, I got 14 or 20 left. So it was just keeping your eyes open. And you take that with you, man. That is like some of the worst stuff you can watch before you go to bed. Because it's way more scary and creepy now with the visual effects and everything else that people can do. So, I'm still involved, but just not as much as I can because I just don't have the time. And then, kids will take the remaining life out of you.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, joy. They bring you lots of joy.
So much joy.
I love my boys.
All right. So, any resources that you would recommend to some of us here sitting in this crowd?
Okay, so there are lots of resources that everybody can take advantage of. And I know you've heard it a couple times today, but it's true. So even the bare minimum, you don't have to participate. You can just kind of watch on the side is the NCMPR chat thread. I mean, some of the stuff you know already. Some of the stuff is like, oh yeah, how is the colleges dealing with that? And even if it's not applicable, it's good for you to know because it might influence what you do. I would say for those of you that haven't done it, the best opportunity is the Leadership Institute.
All right. Yeah, round of applause.
It's mentioned before, but you can lead wherever you're at in your organization. You really can. And one of the things that kind of flipped this paradigm for me was, you might feel like you're deficient in whatever, right? And you could spend a lot of time working on where you don't feel you're strong. But they're saying, no, if you are a D student, maybe you'll get up to a C or B minus. Work on your strengths, right? That's what makes you really good. And just play to your strengths more. And so I think that was a different perspective and a great way to think about things. And then not only that, it's the cohort of folks that you're going through with. So I'm way tighter than I ever thought I would be when I started that Leadership Institute. And I got Mandy right over there. I mean,
BFF.
Yes, right. And then even bonding with the folks that went through after, and I'm trying to encourage my staff to do it as well. And our social media specialist Catherine Winslow went through it, and I'm venturing to say she had a really positive experience because I know she's connected with some of you. There you go, some of the leadership. Yep, the cohort there in the audience. I see 3 of you right now. So I think it's worthwhile, and it's a great way to get involved. It kind of checks 2 boxes. How can you get better involved with your community college where you're at and improve your skill set, make you better as, a leader or just even, whatever it is you do, because you'll find community in that, but then also connects you more with NCMPR, which is, it's the only place that specializes in 2-year colleges, and that's what we do. And we're the only people that can really commiserate or share ideas and thoughts and whatever with each other. And we're the only ones that get it. So you will find your tribe here.
All right. How about we give David a round of applause? Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you for sharing your story. As you could see, we have a lot of creatives in this crowd. So I think it was definitely very useful. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
All right, we've got a little time left, so why don't we jump into our Q&A? Does anyone in this audience have some questions for us or for David? Tell us who you are, where you're from, sir.
All right, my name is Jeff Ebbing. I'm from Parts Unknown, and I'm an interloper for District 6 this week. My question for you, David, is you say that you like to do things differently from other community colleges, and we all like to think that we do the same thing to represent our schools. But with great power comes great responsibility. How do you check yourself before you wreck yourself when it comes to your ideas, and how do you balance that to represent the college, because you have a lot of power, but also be true to the brand and creativity?
I often wreck myself, and you learn from mistakes, right? But you, like everybody on your campus, you have a trusted group of colleagues that you can use as a sounding board. And you should never make a decision in a vacuum. So I think it's important to consult with whomever the stakeholders are, who it's going to affect. If you can talk to students first to see how a message might resonate with them. Sometimes I try and live on the edge. Perceptive reminded me this morning of a very edgy campaign that we did, where we implemented our bathroom stalls and the space above urinals to grab students' attention with some potty humor. And it was a success. And we saw that it was shared on social media. I was telling them I had VPs sending me text messages seeing that they saw it, and that was cool, but it also grossed me out. But you can wreck yourself, but you just have to use others as a sounding board. You really, everything we do is in collaboration. And so you have to have some buy-in to get some of that support in order to do those big initiatives.
All right. Anyone else have a question for David?
I have a question, David.
Introduce yourself, please.
I'm Mandy Heil, District 6 Director, Dean of Marketing and Communications at Arizona Western College. And we have a team of graphic designers. They're all here today. And I don't know if any of them ever aspire to manage a marketing team, or even our videographer or photographer, any of our creatives. I guess what I want to know is, the designer, they're just all day long just kind of checking off design requests that come in. And that's what they're doing all day long, right? Just doing design requests and photography events and all that stuff. So any recommendations or advice for how they can fit in time to develop leadership, or if they do aspire to move into leadership roles, how do you fit that in when they're just dealing with, requests all day, every day?
So I think a lot of it is sometimes the creative types feel invisible on their campus, because you are behind a computer screen most of the time, designing, editing, sweetening photos, any of that. But there are so many opportunities on your campus to get involved. There are so many initiatives. Some of it, you just have to put yourself forward. Is there an affinity group that you can get involved in? Is there an event? Can you help graphic design, for initiative? Maybe it's, we have an association of Latino employees, right, that I get involved with. Anybody who will ask or extend an invitation, I will help out. And that's part of, just the process. There's so many things that you can just get involved with on campus. So that would be my first recommendation, is just get involved in an initiative, and you can take on a leadership role, right? Whatever that project is on campus. Again, people will happily exploit you if you're willing to, but what you're getting out of it is experience. And so whether it's, getting involved in some campus initiative, Leadership Institute, second plug, do it. But all of this stuff will give you kind of you'll get experience. You'll say, sometimes in life it's just finding out what you don't like. And so the idea of doing A, B, C, or D sounds great until you actually do it. So sometimes you're just figuring out, no, I'm good with that. I like what I'm doing. So it just might affirm what you're doing right now. But I say get involved.
All right. We've got a question up front.
Thank you. This is also not a question.
Well, got to tell us where you're from, who you are, where you're from.
I'm Danny Foti. I am the graphic designer and photographer for Cochise College. And this kind of ties into what you were saying about getting involved in opportunities, because as you were talking and listening to your path through higher education, just your career path in general, a lot of it sounds like, I talked to this person and they offered me a job, or, somebody asked me if I wanted to get a promotion. Do you want to be director of this? And that's how it sounds. I know that's not how it is, because it comes down to networking, right? If you don't talk to people, if you don't know people, those opportunities aren't going to come your way. So that also can happen getting involved on campus, things off of campus, whatever. So not really a question, just kind of a note that that's the importance of talking to people and being known by your colleagues and people outside. Maybe they're in another department. They don't do what we do, but just being known by them and knowing what they do, those opportunities will come your way, and maybe they won't, maybe they will, So that's all. Not a question, sorry.
But no, we're all communicators, right? But sometimes we forget to communicate about ourselves.
Yes.
And so I think it's important not to brag, but to just show some of the work that you're doing and why you think, whether it's an idea or an impact. Don't be afraid to pitch your ideas. You're the ones that are living with it and thinking about it all the time. And so often it's someone's going to be like, yeah, that's an amazing idea. Let's try and figure out a way to implement it. So I think it's that, it's communicating it. And then I think your work will get noticed. You know, it might not be right away, but people on your campus know, you know, they know if you're putting out quality content or if you're showing up, if you're getting involved, they know. It's just, you know, you just have to put yourself out there.
All right. Well, again, thank you so much, David, for doing this. And how about another round of applause for David?
Wow, I've never seen a standing ovation before. For those of you, I was just kidding. For those of you listening, that did not happen.
Yeah, it was really, really helpful to hear your stories. Thank you so much.
Can You Make It Pretty is presented by the National Council for Marketing and Public Relations. NCMPR is the country's premier group for PR, communications, and marketing pros at two-year colleges. Can You Make It Pretty is mixed by Bill Aldridge at Third City Sound in Joliet, Illinois, and produced by me. I'm Jacqueline Johanna Garver, and I'm the Communication and DEI Manager for NCMPR. Can You Make It Pretty is available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube. If you like what you've heard, we'd love it if you subscribed, downloaded, rated, and reviewed.